This video is going to show you how to use Avenza a little bit. We'll do more in class and go back over all of this. When you open up Avenza, the first thing I just wanted to point out is that you will be making sure to go to your settings right here in order to ensure that you properly have a pro account. And you'll want to go into account details to do that. And make sure that your username is the long set of characters and numbers that I gave you. Once you have done that, you should have a pro account, as I am showing I have right now. So I'm going back now, and I want to start with the easiest thing, which is just to open up the base map. And as long as we are online, we have Wi-Fi or we have LTE connection, you should be able to see a map that you can go around. And if you click on this button in the top right-hand corner that has the little arrow on it, it will take you to your location. And so you can see our location is in the BMH building right now, where I am making this video. You can also click the button below that arrow if you want to put north at the top of the map, which is sometimes useful if you get confused as you roam around an area and aren't exactly sure which direction you are facing. So that's the first thing that I wanted to do and show you. The next thing I want to show you is while you're on this base map, you can establish layers to put data into. And the layers tab is down in the very bottom right-hand corner. It has three little layers there. If you click on that, you will actually see that I have a bunch of layers that are currently linked to this particular base map. When you first open this layer account, it will either show no layers or it will just establish a first layer for you. But you can press the little plus sign down here and you can create a new layer if you want to. And I'm just going to call this layer, if it will let me type right now. Here we go. Sample layer. So any data that I make now would theoretically go in the sample layer, but it is not active. The active layer is the one that is shown as the 470 experiment. So if I go to the little menu that is to the right of sample and click on that, you will see that you can press the set as active. And once I've done that, it should then highlight it as active, showing a little green active there. You can also hide layers, and I'm going to hide that 470 experiment that I was working on, just so it doesn't get in our way. So now we shouldn't be looking at any layers whatsoever. I could turn on some of these other layers if I wanted to look at those data, but I don't right now. So now I'm going to go back to the base map. And this is where we can start to put data in a bunch of different ways. And we'll go through some of these in class and talk about them in more detail. The most basic thing you can do is you can drop a point. Now, of course, it makes the most sense to drop a point where you are. And let's say you want to do that, and I want to drop a point on the BMH building. I can actually press that arrow button again, and it will take the little cursor that is going to allow me to drop a point right back to that blue dot. And then I can press this icon on the bottom right-hand corner that creates a place mark. And you can go ahead and name that place mark what you will. I'm going to call it right now my location. And you can edit different aspects of this. You can add a photo to it. You could add a description. You can change the style from a red pin to a classic blue pin. It will tell you what the elevation is, and you can fetch that elevation and make it a part of the data set. And you can add other attributes to this as well. But for the time being, this is going to be good enough for what we need to do. You can see that when I finished it and I click the little check mark at the top or I scroll it down, it will show it on the map. Now I can't add anything else until I minimize the location marker. So I'm going to scroll that sucker down. And now I can go ahead and add another point if I want to. And I'm just going to add a point over here in the Forest Park area. And I'm going to label this one Forest Park. I'm going to change the style of the pin to an orange pin just because I can. And now I've created that and I can scroll it down again. In addition to dropping a pin, you can also add lines as well. And there are a couple of ways to do these lines. But if you go in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see there's a little ruler and pen marker there. And one of the things you can do is record your GPS track, and you would click that and then walk wherever you want to go to collect the data. We'll experiment with that in class. I'm just going to do a very basic draw and measure right now, and that allows me to draw a line. And wherever the cursor is, I can click add a point, and then I can move to another place and add another point. And I can create whatever line I want to create based on what I'm looking at here. And you'll be able to change the color if you want to as well. But before I do that, I wanted to show you that I can also turn this into a polygon, which is a closed set of lines. And I do that by clicking the little polygon feature, which is at the bottom of the page that has 4 little dots with a sort of hashing mark in the middle of it. So I'm going to click that, and you can see I've now created this polygon. I'm going to hit the check mark sign now, and there is my area. And I can scroll up here, and I can change the name of it, and I can also change the color of it and things, which is often very useful to do since the big orange blob is sort of unattractive. So I'm going to click on that orange area. I'm going to change the color to red. I'm going to change the fill to red, and I'm going to change the opacity of red to something that is sort of shaded instead of solid. And now I can go back to this and I can scroll down, and you can see that that polygon is there. Lines will also show there as well. And both the lines and polygons are super useful if you want to measure stuff, measure areas or measure lengths of things. Once you have collected all the data that you want to collect, go back to that layer function on the bottom and click on that. This is the active layer that we're using. You can click on the menu next to it again, and you can say export a layer. And there are a bunch of different ways to export layers. If I'm doing something really quickly and I don't want to deal with a bunch of big files, I usually do it as a KML file or a GPX file because those import into maps pretty easily. But if you are creating a file that has points, lines, and polygons on it and a bunch of other stuff, and you want to use it in ArcGIS Online, the best way to export it is as a shapefile, which is highlighted right now. You say OK to that shapefile, and now everything is selected. I can go back here, hit that export button again, and it will allow me to email it to myself. And so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to change my email to my UAA one, and I'm just going to email it as well. And you can see that it has placed the name that I gave it as the zip file. Now this is going to come to you as a zipped folder file, which you will have to either unpack to look at or export directly into ArcGIS Online, as you have seen in the other video or maybe seen in the other video as well. There are lots of other things that we can do with Avenza, but another thing that I wanted to show you with Avenza is that you are not confined just to the base map that you want to have here. You can also import maps as well. Imported maps are in zipped files as well, but they include zipped files that have an image, something called a world file, and something that's called a projection file in them. And I'm happy to send you one of these zipped files. In order to import that map, you would actually go back to the main map page and hit that plus sign right here. And when you've hit that plus sign, you would download or import the map right here. And then you would go and search for where you'd stored it. And I usually put it in my G drive, so it's in cloud storage. And when that map comes up, it's going to look something like this one right here. It will be a sort of third-party map that is brought into Avenza. This happens to be an orienteering map that I have helped to create for the UAA West area. But of course, there are all sorts of different maps that you can bring in as well. So that's something that might be useful to experiment with, and that we might experiment with in class a little bit as well. So this is a little start to Avenza. I hope that it has helped you.